Then, because I'm just awesome like that. Okay, all right. So that's a little bit about my education background. Before I became a pastor, I had a lot of what I would call square jobs. So I worked as a night security guard when I lived in Boston at a giant biomedical research facility. I was in charge. It was me and 3 other people and literally billions of dollars of research equipment and like pharmaceutical potential. And they left me in charge, so that's on them. Yeah. I also, okay, now don't hate on this next one. I also worked at the IRS. So when Jesus talks about tax collectors, that speaks to me. I've been there. I've been on the receiving end of that. So when Jesus says the tax collectors have a special place, like I'm like, thank you, Jesus. No one I worked with was thanking me for doing my job when I worked at the IRS. Go figure. After the IRS, I had my own tax practice for a while, and this was years ago, so I'm not up to date on tax codes. A lot has changed inside of tax practice, so if you ask me tax questions, I will give you free advice, and you get what you pay for with that, okay? So if you ask me tax questions, I will happily answer them, and they will most likely be wrong, so don't listen to them, okay? I also worked at the VA hospital in Denver, the old VA hospital, not the big fancy new one, if you've been to that, but I worked in primary care administration. So I went from the IRS to the VA to just well-functioning government bureaucracies. If you're familiar with, if you've ever worked with either of those entities, you know what that's about. I've also been a volunteer firefighter. When I was in Salida, I loved being a volunteer firefighter. Same sort of thing as the tax advice. I got paid $5 per fire or car accident, and the taxpayers got what they paid for on that one with me, I'll tell you. You ever see me try and like tie a knot or work with rope? You'll be like, ooh, I don't know if I'd want that guy coming to the fire. Yeah. All right. And also, before I moved here, when I was in Breckenridge, I was a fire service chaplain. The fire service is something that's near and dear to my heart. And so after I was done being a firefighter, I was a firefighter chaplain for Red, White, and Blue in Breckenridge when I was there. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions from the group? Cool. All right. Next, I want to tell you a little bit about my military service, and some of you have heard about this. So while I was in college and also while I was in seminary, I was enlisted in the Army National Guard. I was a military police soldier here in Colorado and Maryland when I lived in D.C., and then finally Massachusetts when I lived in Boston. I got an all-expenses-paid trip to the land of Abram, to Ur of the Chaldees, a.k.a. Iraq, in 2007, 2008. That's my favorite picture. That's me holding a puppy on the streets of Baghdad. They specifically said, don't touch the dogs. So, of course, what did we do? We picked up the puppies. Yeah. So anyway, so you'll hear different stories from my time in military service and all that. And I know a lot of y'all also are veterans. So thank you all that have been in uniform. It's a thing. So you'll hear more about that. And I got a story from that coming up here at the end. So anyway, just a little bit of that. They lived in a pile of garbage. Yeah. They were not clean dogs. Yeah. We didn't get sick, though. We were fine. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. We love the dogs. That's my favorite picture. Me and a puppy. Obviously, if you remember the news and the history of them, it was not all puppies in Baghdad at that time. But that one day it was. All right, so before coming here to be your pastor, I've been a United Methodist pastor for 11 years now. My first appointment were to these 2 small farm towns in southeast Colorado called Wiley and McClave. They happen to be right outside Lamar, which if you know how our Methodist system works, the district superintendent who does the appointings knew I was from Lamar, but probably didn't know how close the towns of Wiley and McClave are. If you've been a part of the SBRC and you've done anything with pastors, you're going to enjoy this next story. So it's my first appointment, and I show up with the district superintendent to the Wiley church, and the first person who meets us there, this is a true story, I'm not making any of this up, the first person who meets us there, who's on the staff parish relationship committee that does all the things with pastors and appointment, is my great aunt Peaches. And you could see the DS just kind of be like, oh. Well, too late now. So my first appointment, we're at these two small churches, kind of, it was like going back home. It's where all my kinfolk are. That's a good country term if you ever heard that, kinfolk. So that was my first appointment. I was there 3 years. After that, I went to Salida, one of Colorado's happening mountain towns. Anyone here ever been to Salida? Awesome. Yeah, also on Highway 50. Also, at this point, I hope you noticed this has devolved into like a stand-up show, so just bear with me on that. I was in Salida 3 years, and after that, I got reappointed to Father Dyer Church in Breckenridge, Colorado. And as you'll hear in a bit when I talk about my hobbies, Salida and Breckenridge were great places for me to be. In 2022, I took a little break from being a pastor just to kind of chill out, because after everything after 2020, we could all use some time to chill out. So I took a little break from pastoring, and then in January of this year, I was serving at the Olathe Church, just kind of filling in as they were between pastors. So for about 6 months before I came here to Fruita, I was serving the people down in Olathe. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about what's happening now. Okay. So as you all know, I am the pastor of your church here in Fruita for all you people and for the good people of Fruita in this part of Mesa County. Along with that, I also serve as what's called your congregational resource minister, and these are the same roles that Roger had while he was here. So Roger and I have the same appointment if you're familiar with how that worked. And what that means is I'm appointed to you all, to the church and to Fruita part-time. And my other part-time gig is serving all the Methodist churches in the western third of Colorado and all of Utah with our Utah Western Colorado district. In that role, I work with our district superintendent, Reverend Lou Ward. He and I have known each other a long time. We're going to make a great team because we have a lot alike. We're also going to make a horrible team because we have a lot alike. Okay? If you've ever been a part of a team, you know that sometimes everyone being the same is not always the best, but me and Lou got a lot in common, but we're going to be great together. So that's kind of what's going on. So we haven't quite completely fished out what my CRM duties are going to be because it's different with every district superintendent and every CRM. But one thing that's going to be new is, with me being a CRM, is my first priority is Fruita, and then what the district is going to have is going to come after that. So that's going to be a little bit of a change from things. Okay? So that's kind of what I'm doing in the church world. Now I have some other irons in the fire, you could say. I am currently working in the process to get back into uniform as a chaplain in the Army National Guard. There's a lot of processes to happen in that. So I'm working that process. There's some timelines, but they're real fuzzy and they're not worth sharing at this point because they're probably going to change. But just I want that out there. If that comes to fruition, and that's an if, that will be another supplemental part-time gig. And Reverend Ward's aware of that, and your SPRC is aware about. So if that comes to fruition, we'll get that all figured out, how that's all going to work. Another thing I'm going to be trying, seeing if there's any interest in, is, as I said, the fire service has just a big place in my heart. Here, later on this summer, I'm going to be reaching out to our own Lower Valley Fire District and see if they might be in need of a chaplain, because it's something I've done in the past and something I feel really just powerful about, because our first responders need those people who are there to listen and take care of them as they're taking care of all of us. So we'll see how that all works out. Anyone got any questions about any of that? CRM stuff, being your pastor, anything? All good? Yes. Ooh. Okay, so the question was, what am I going to do in my spare time? That's coming up in 2 slides. Okay? That's a good question. That's coming up in 2 slides. Okay, any other questions? Man, I'm feeling good I'm 2 for 2 on these questions so far. Good. Awesome. So somebody at some point throw a question out that I don't have a slide for. Okay? So next I want to talk about kind of just what my life looks like now. So I live here in Fruita. I live in the Orchard Valley West neighborhood. Okay, yeah. So if you don't know where that's at, it's north of the traffic circle on Mesa, across the Salt Lick Draw, I think it is, just headed north from the elementary school. So I live right here in Fruita. That's my dog, Basin. There we go. Thank you. Yes, that's the response I was ordered. Yeah, so I've had Basin pretty much all her life. She's almost 10. So she's got a big birthday coming up, so we're going to celebrate that. But that's my dog, Basin. That's at Snook's Bottom, by the way. And just for reference, she is all of 70 pounds. So she's a big dog. She's a big dog. It's a very dense 70 pounds, though. She's lab-esque, but she's jacked. I mean, she's a muscular dog. So if I ever hand you the leash, just heads up. She's 10, though. She's really chill. She's super chill if you ever get to meet her. All right. So to answer the question about what I like to do in my spare time, I have some hobbies. My main thing that I'm really into is snowboarding. So if you're paying attention when I was in Salida and Breckenridge, got to snowboard a lot. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it. This is an actual picture. I'm one of those little black dots up there at the top. That was like my biggest adventure ever snowboarding. I didn't do that good. That was maybe a little outside my comfort zone that day. Not gonna lie. Yeah. Yes, question. Say again? No, I ride straight. Yeah, I'm not that talented to ride goofy. That was a question about snowboarding. There's two ways you can ride. One of them's called goofy. It's where you're kind of backwards. It's a whole thing. I can't do it. I'm not that good. Good question, though. Yeah. So snowboarding is my main hobby. I also play guitar. You'll be seeing that every now and then here at church. I can kind of sing as well, but in a very like early 2000s way. I'll say this. I'll admit this. I don't know if I've ever admitted this in public before. I still listen to Creed, and that comes through if you ever hear me sing. You'll be like, that guy sounds like he never left 2002. You're correct. I never did. Okay. I also enjoy reading The Economist. It's a publication I've been reading a long time. Keeps me up on what's going on in the world. So those are just a few of my hobbies. Now I'm going to throw something out here right now because I've been a pastor long enough to know sometimes you just throw things out to the church and y'all are amazing people and you make things happen. I know this is not a snowboarding town. I got my pass to Powderhorn, was up there all last season, loved it. I'm going to be back up there again. But it is not a dinosaur on a snowboard on the town logo there on the co-op tower. It's a bike gear. So here's what I'm throwing out there. I do not currently have a mountain bike. Would I like to have one? Yes. Y'all know what I do for a living. Do I have $5,000 for a mountain bike? No. Okay? So I'm just throwing this out there to you all as the community, and if you're watching on YouTube, if there's a mountain bike for a person about my size that maybe the price tag is 3 digits instead of 4, hook me up, okay? I'm just throwing that out there. If it happens, yes. I don't know enough to answer that. I need something that'll help me fit in. How about that? Yeah. I mean, I'll write it, but this is also just so I can fit in. Yeah. So I'm going to say probably whatever's the simplest and cheapest. Let's go with that. Woo! All right. There we go. See, we're all getting leads. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's some practical advice. Head out and check for it. Thank you. That's good advice. Yes. Oh, good question. Yeah. So I have one older sibling. I have an older brother. His name is Jacob. Another good Bible name for all you that know your Old Testament. He's older than I am. He and his family just moved to Colorado Springs not too long ago. He's a career officer in what is now the Space Force. He was in the Air Force for a long time and then moved over to the Space Force when that became a thing. And he and his family live in Colorado Springs, so nice and close. They've spent, as military families do, they've spent time all over the place, but now they're here in Colorado, which is nice. So, good question. All right. So, besides hobbies, as you will catch on as I spend time here, I'm real into things about pop culture. I'm one of those people. And so some pop culture touchstones that I am very familiar with are the stars, both Wars and Trek. Okay. Also SpongeBob SquarePants. I know I'm a grown man, but I love that show. Okay. And also sitcoms. So if there's a sitcom you like, chances are I've seen it multiple times, as we talked about last week. So just some things. Also, if you're into Star Wars, Star Trek, super my thing. If there's some pop culture thing that you're into, I'll say this, unless it's anime, I probably am at least familiar with it. If you talk to me about anime, nothing. I got nothing on that one. That world is too wide, too wide. But anything else? So those are just some pop cultural things. Phineas and Ferb. I'm familiar with that show. Yes, good cartoon. Cartoons especially. Cartoons are great. All right. So now I'm going to talk about some more practical things. So as your pastor, one of the things I want to be is as transparent as I can be in kind of what my schedule looks like and what my availability is. To help with that, outside the office, and I noticed someone put it in a fancy plastic sleeve, so kudos to whoever did that because I didn't think of that. But outside the office door is a printed schedule that I'm going to keep updated in public for you. And on that schedule is not minutia and everything, but it's if I'm going to be out of town or unavailable, it's going to be there outside the office. So like I have a week of vacation, it's on there. If I'm at a training or a conference event or my CRM duties have me out of town, it'll be up there just for public knowledge, just to be transparent. So be sure to take a look at that every now and then so you can keep tabs on kind of where I'm going and what I'm about and all that sort of stuff, okay? And as your pastor, besides doing worship and all the administrative stuff that comes with the church and meetings and all that, one of the reasons I'm here, and this is an invitation for you, one of the reasons I'm here is to talk. And by talk, I mean mainly listen, okay? And that is not just about anything. Like, I don't have 3 hours where we can just talk about Star Wars all day. Do I want to do that? Yes. Are we going to do that? No. But if you need to talk about something from the Bible, if there is an issue going on in your life that is impacting or affecting, or you want to be impacted by your faith or your spirituality, that is 100% why I'm here. If you have questions about theology and belief systems and religion in general, that's why I'm here. And so if you ever want to or need to have a conversation about any of those things, we can set that up. My schedule's pretty flexible at the moment. So you just, at any time, this is a blanket statement too, as long as I'm here, you send an email, pastor@fruitaumc.org. You can also text. I always prefer text over phone calls because then I can kind of read and take in what we're talking about. So you can text me as well if you ever need to get together and talk. Now, I'm going to tell you something about myself. There's a reason that's a picture of juice and coffee. I don't drink coffee, so don't invite me to coffee unless you got juice or something else to go with it. Cool? We good? So again, if you ever have anything you need to talk about, that is why I'm here. And that'll mainly just be me listening, asking questions, and if I feel like I got something constructive to say, I'll say it, and if not, I'll just listen and ask questions and maybe help form better questions. So that is a blanket invitation. As long as I'm here to talk. And I love to talk about the Bible. So if you ever need to talk about the Bible, I love to talk about the Bible. I love to talk about theology. I love to talk about faith and religion and religions of the world. So anytime you want to talk about any of that, just please let me know. Okay. Now, that is an invitation. Yes? Yeah, so our Wednesday morning Bible study is on summer hiatus. Now, I like to use a classical definition of summer, meaning after Labor Day. So after Labor Day, we're going to get that kind of Wednesday morning Bible study going up. We'll probably keep it Wednesday morning. But yeah, and then there'll be kind of sporadic ones too that are focused. Like there may be a 6-week study on one particular thing every now and then. Like we'll probably do like an Advent study just for Advent. And we'll probably do something for Lent just for Lent. So yeah, there'll be those things. There'll be those opportunities coming up. So yeah, and we have our Sunday morning class. They're reading Acts right now. So if you want to learn more about Acts, Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock. They're there in the West Room. So, okay, any other questions? Cool. All right, so that is an invitation. And I want to share this with you. That word invitation is a word that I am going to use a lot. I mean a lot. When we talk about what's going on here in the church, That's the language I'm going to use. You are invited to fill in the blank. Okay? And that is rooted in our theology as Methodists. Now, I'm gonna say something here, and I'm not going to explain it, and that's to get you to keep coming to church, because at some point I will explain it, but I'm not going to do that today. As Methodists, we come from a flavor of the church, and if you want to know why I use the term flavor, keep coming. I'll explain it at some point. But we come from a flavor of the church known as Arminians. That comes from a guy named Jacobus Arminius. And the crux of being Arminian and being Methodist is that we believe in a God who at the center of God's nature and at the center of how God made all of time and space is an invitation. Meaning that we don't believe in a whole lot of predestination or fate, that God is forcing things, or that God can even force us to do anything, but that God invites us to a whole lot. And so this at the center of how I look at being a pastor and how I look at the church is that it's all one big invitation that you can take or not. That it's something specifically for you to consider, and if it fits with what you're doing, go with it. If it doesn't fit with what you're doing, then don't go for it. It's an invitation. And that's how I view kind of all of what the church is about. That none of us have to be here, but that we are invited and welcome to be here. Now, that being said, I want to spend some time talking specifically about church. So if church is viewed as kind of one invitation that we have accepted together, then that is something that we can then invite others to. I don't know if you noticed on your way in this morning, but there was no velvet rope. We got some greeters, but we don't have bouncers at the door. At least, we don't do that. Because this is a thing that everyone is invited to. And the reason is because what we talked about today, if I were to sum up the mission of the church in just one phrase, not even a sentence, because I've been out of school a while, but this isn't even a full sentence. But when I think about the church, what helps me do that and what guides because the church is big and there's a lot of things going on, for me, what it comes down to is that our mission as the church is to proclaim and live out God's good news. Now, that good news has a lot of different facets and angles to it, and we're going to spend our whole lives trying to understand it and talk about it in all the different ways that we experience it. But as we know that good news, we're called to proclaim it in our words, our silence, and our actions, who we are, how we live, how we interact with one another. And in that proclaiming, we are called to also live it out, meaning that that good news is not just words, it is actions and deeds and service and showing up and being present and being intentional with how we live with one another and how we live with our community and how we live with our world as the church. That if whatever we're doing, it should be good and it should be news that we and our world and our community need. And that's one of the main reasons we get together on Sunday mornings, is to experience that and to talk about it so that we can share it better with our world. That good news is an invitation to each and every one of us as a group, and an invitation then we get to share with others and our world. Now, I want to talk a little bit about one of my jobs as pastor. Is I like to think that I am most likely the person who's going to be here the shortest, because if you've been around a Methodist church any amount of time, pastors come and go. We don't know how long any one pastor will be in one place. But I always like to assume that I am probably going to be the person that is here the least amount of time, and therefore I get to be the person in the room who is thinking the most long term. And so one of my jobs as pastor for you all is to be that person that is thinking long term and gets to ask real big picture questions, okay? And I want to start off the bat, this is my 4th Sunday, not even a full month yet, but I want to let you all know that I'm coming in with those sorts of eyes, looking at some big picture stuff about who we are as the church and how we operate. And this is real pertinent because it's like 100 billion degrees outside right now on a Sunday morning. And one of the questions I'm going to be asking us, and one of the cool things about this is I get to ask questions then not provide answers. So I get off easy on this one, that I get to show up, ask questions, and then, then it's kind of for you all to figure out what the answer is, and I can help in that. But one of the big questions I'm going to have for us is about when and where we worship. Because right now we worship on Sunday mornings. The church has been worshiping on Sunday mornings for a long time. One of the questions I have for us as the church is that when we think about when and where church is Sunday morning where we want to keep that and where we want to invest our time and our energy. So again, that is a question that I don't have an answer to. I just showed up here. I don't know anything. But that's a question I have for us, and I want to invite you as the church, y'all that have been around longer than I have, to be thinking about that. Is Sunday morning where we want to be as a church? The answer may be yes. It may be yes. But I think it's a question worth asking in a community such as this, especially during the summer. Especially during the summer. All right. So talking more about church. So right here at the very beginning of me being here, I want to extend to the church, to you all as individuals or households or families or just as the church as a whole, however you want to take it. I want to extend to you this invitation. It's an invitation. You can do with it what you want. But what I want to invite us to is that over the next year, so think about when we're in the summer of 2024, what I want to invite you to is between now and the summer of 2024 is to intentionally share and invite your church experience with someone. Now, the old school way of saying that is like, I want you to invite someone to church between now and next summer. But I want you to do more than that, than just say, hey, I go to this place on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. You should come to this place Sunday morning on 10 a.m. What I'm inviting you to do is to share church, not just Sunday morning worship, but to share church with one person between now and summer. And what that means is that if you want to invite them to worship, you do that. But in a way that says, hey, I go to this thing on Sunday mornings. It's meaningful. It means something to me. I would love to share that with you. When can we go? Can I meet you there? Can I pick you up? Do you want to go to lunch afterwards? I'll sit with you. If you got questions, I'll send them to the pastor or answer them if I can. Sharing church with someone is more than just saying, hey, you should come to this time and place. It's bringing them. Our new district superintendent, Lou Ward, I'll share this with you, and he put this on the district Facebook page. Our district superintendent, Lou Ward, was not going to church, and he was, I don't know what age he was, but he was in his adulthood, had a career and family, and one Easter, someone invited him to church like that. They said, hey, I'm going to church for Easter. You're welcome to come. I'll pick you up. I'll sit with you at the service. We'll go to lunch afterwards and talk. And he's been coming to church ever since, and now he's our district superintendent. And that's the power of making that personal invitation. And so the challenge I'm giving us is in 1 year, between now and next summer, I want to encourage you to share and invite church just with one person. And think of the math on that. Not that church is not about math. Church is not about numbers. Jesus had 12 people, and then thousands, and then 12, and by the end he had less. Okay? But if every person shares one church with one person, that's 100% of people in this room and in the church. So just think about that. So I want to extend that challenge to us as a church. Between now and summer, think of who that person might be. You might meet them in December, maybe around Christmas or Easter, and share church with them. All right. Anyone have any questions about that? I just got here. I'm already giving you homework. Oh, boy. Yes. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, I don't know. So we, as Methodist pastors, we never know how long we'll be in any one place. It could be 20 years. It could be a year. We don't know. It's a year-by-year thing, and that's how our process works, and it always works that way. So, yeah, I have no idea. No idea. I just got here. I don't want to move again. Moving's the worst. Not signing up for that anytime soon, okay? So yeah, so good question, because sometimes it comes across that way, because, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've given that talk and that conversation a lot. I'll be like, how long are you going to be here? I don't know. So yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out together. We're on that journey together as a church. Yeah. Any other questions before I move on? Cool. All right. Well, now I'm going to transition, and this is the part we're going to tape. So now I want to transition, and I want to tell you all a story. So I've told you a lot about my background and church and what I think of church and language I use and pop culture and all that. But here from the get-go, I want to tell you a story from my life that is at the heart of why I'm a pastor. Like, why, out of all the things you can do in life, this is the calling that I have on my heart, that this is what I've decided to do with my life. This is my life. Leading churches, helping churches proclaim and live out good news. So when I tell you this story about why I'm a pastor, and this goes back to my time in military service, and it starts in a place called Kuwait, and it starts in the Kuwaiti desert, okay? And we got a slide of that, Jerry, if we can get the... Okay, it's all good. So we're still figuring all this out. All right. So I want to tell you about why I'm a pastor and the story that motivates me to do what I do. So this starts in 2007. I've been in the National Guard for a while. My unit has been activated. We're going overseas to Iraq. And if you were paying attention then in 2007, there was something called the Surge happening, where President Bush and General Petraeus was like, hey, Iraq's about to come off the wheels. We got to get more boots on the ground. And my unit was going to be one of those boots on the ground to go when the wheels were about to fall off the bus. And the way it worked then for National Guard Reserve soldiers is you spent 3 months training. We spent 3 months in New Jersey, because when you think about getting ready for the deserts, you think of New Jersey, right? That makes sense, right? Anyway, that's what it was. So we spent 3 months getting ready in the woods of New Jersey to go to the deserts of the Middle East. And after we were done with that, we went to Kuwait. And you hang out in Kuwait and you acclimate for the weather, and you're there for about 2 weeks, and you're literally just waiting on logistics that, like, there's only so many ways to get into Iraq. You got to wait for your spot on that plane or on that convoy. And so we hang out in Kuwait for 2 weeks, and they have some stuff for us to do, but not a lot. So for those 2 weeks in Kuwait, you're just hanging out. It's really hot, but the tents are air conditioned. I actually caught a cold while I was there. It was 120 outside. It was 60 in the tents with the air conditioner. I caught a cold. That was just dumb. It was like, really? I'm going to catch a cold in the desert? But whatever. But you just wait, and you have all of this time to think about, okay, like, this is it. This is the big show. We're going. What's it going to be like? What's going to happen? How long are we going to be there? Like, this is war. All of us coming back. If we come back, are we coming back the same way? And so you have all this time just to be kind of sitting in that, and there's different ways people deal with that. Some of them constructive, some of them not so much. And then the day comes where they're like, hey, it's our turn. We're driving to the airfield. We're getting on the plane. And the way my unit got to Iraq was inside this giant plane called a C-17. Now, this is not the biggest aircraft on the world, but it's close. These things are gargantuan. They're literally cavernous inside. It fit all like 180 of us and our duffel bags inside this plane. And inside this plane, this giant cavernous belly of a plane, you could cut the tension with a knife. Like, you could just feel the anxiety in this plane, that it's filled with all these young men and women who have their lives before them, headed off to war. And it's just, like, you could feel the weight of not knowing, of not being in control. And I had a moment inside that C-17. And it's that moment, and it was brief. I mean, it was just a few seconds, but I had this moment inside the C-17, and it's that moment that is why I'm a pastor and why I do what I do, and part of the calling that God has given me. So I'm inside this C-17. There's a picture of me. I'm the guy kind of on the edge of the photo, kind of leaning in. That's me. Younger version of myself. Same haircut. Kept that all these years. Next to me is a guy named Big Mac. He and me are still friends. And we're inside this plane, and I have my iPod with me, an ancient piece of technology called an iPod, if you remember those. It had the click wheel. That's how long ago this story was. And I had my iPod with me, and I just got on shuffle, and this song comes on that was popular back then in churches called Mighty to Save by the Hillsong Group. It was big then. And there's a line in there where it says, author of salvation. And in that moment, I'm in the C-17, not knowing what's coming next, all this anxiety, going to war, and I just have this moment of complete and utter peace. That like no matter what happens next, it's gonna be okay. And not in like a superficial way of this is gonna be all puppies, except for that one day when it was. It's not gonna be all puppies and ice cream and rainbows. Like this is still gonna be legit. We're going to war. This is what's happening. But that even if the worst happens, it's gonna be okay. Not because of anything I have control of, but because who God is and what God can do. And it's that moment of peace that has kept me going, and that's that moment of peace. I'm a pastor because I want as many people as possible to experience that kind of peace. Because the truth is, even if you've never been in a C-17, even if you've never been to war, if you are human, there's going to be a time, and there's probably going to be a lot of them, when you are not going to be in control. There are going to be those moments, and you may live an amazing life where things go great. It may not be till that very end, but there will be that moment when you are not in control of what comes next. And it's those kind of moments when we lean into not who we are and what we can do, but we lean into who God is and what God can do. Got a little choked up telling that story. I wasn't expecting that. I tell that story a lot. And so that's why I'm a pastor. Because I want you all as the church to experience that kind of peace as individuals, as a community. You know, being church can have some uncertainties sometimes. There are some things in the life of the church where we are not in control. And we lean into the God who can do anything. And I'm also a pastor because I want to empower you all as the church to share that good news in your own way, from your own life. That as you experience God's goodness, as you experience God's peace, then you are empowered and equipped to share that with others. Sometimes you'll use words. I'm going to tell you this, most often you're not. But as your pastor, that's why I'm here, is to help you understand and articulate and live out your faith as you've experienced it so that you can share it with your world. Because as we've talked about today, as we're going to talk about a lot, the world needs that. The world needs some peace. People need some peace. We all need some peace in our lives. That peace comes that knowing no matter what happens, God's love is still going to be there, no matter what. And so I wanted to share that story with you just so you know a little bit about why I'm a pastor and what motivates me and why I do what I do. Anyone got any questions? About anything? When's my birthday? January 1st, actually. It makes math easy. Math is not my strong point. Yeah, Earl. Oh, yeah, so I have someone. This is Anna. She's videoing for me today. So that's Anna. Yeah. All right, anyone got any other questions for me about anything we've talked about today? Okay, cool. So as I said, one of my big things in a pastor is an invitation. So I've shared a lot today. I've talked about a lot. This has just been me talking and joking for like a few minutes. You have my email. You are welcome to send me other questions that have come up from today, or as I said, any questions that ever come up about faith, life, spirituality, religion, the Bible, Jesus, God, anything. That's why I'm here. So I'm going to invite you to be in touch. I'll tell you this too, and this is me like humble bragging, but it's also super embarrassing. I just like last week, put my calendar on my phone, like it's the year 2010. So now I got my calendar at my fingertips all the time. I would love to schedule something in there with you. Coffee, juice. I'm going to say beer in church. Okay? We good? We good with that? Okay, because I said it. We can meet for beers after work or happy hour or anything like that. I'm here to have those conversations about life and religion and all sorts of things. Okay? So be in touch. I'm obviously here a lot at the church. Yes? Oh, yeah, my parents are here. They're in the back. No, yeah, they live in Southeast Colorado. They're just visiting for the weekend. No, yeah, me and the dog. Me and the dog. Yeah, me and the dog. She was up there before. Yeah. Yes? No. I mean, I look at it I follow it on social media. Oh, pickles. All right. What's pickles about? Okay. Okay. Board games? Ooh. Yes, but there's a caveat to that. Yeah, but I'm probably way too competitive for public consumption. Like I'm too competitive at board games for polite company. At some point, I don't know when, but at some point you're going to hear a story about a Monopoly game in Iraq. It does not end well. I'll tell you that. You'll hear that story at some point, but yeah. So yes, do I love board games? Yes. Am I nice to be around when I'm playing board games? Maybe not. I don't know if that's how you want to see your pastor. So it depends on the board game. If it's something nice and fun, Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, will probably okay. You get into like Risk or Monopoly, it's not going to be good. Okay. All right, other questions? Anyone got anything else today before we wrap things up? Cool.
So I actually don't have a question. Yeah. I found a earring back here on the computer, and I'm almost certain it's not Daryl's. So I hijacked your PowerPoint and I put a picture of it on here for people.
Okay.
If you lost this earring, it's back on the computer back here.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Look at that. Seek and ye shall find. Or lose and Jerry will get it back to you. Cool. All right. Yes. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, I want to say thank you all for sticking around. Thank you for Janine for putting the ice cream together. Made for a fun day. Thank you all for sticking around. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay cool. Hydrate. You all have a good week. And if this were a stand-up, I'd say, I'll be here next Sunday. Yeah. These are
Sorry, you had to miss the ice cream. That's so funny.
I just take a picture of it, throw it up on the screen, and they'll get it. You bet, thank you. Except I didn't have the sound on for the first 5 minutes. Gracias.
Thanks for helping out today, Jerry.
You bet, my pleasure. My pleasure. I like playing with electronics.